I still remember that night, like it was yesterday. I walked into the grand doors of the restaurant, with my head held high, feeling proud and excited. This wasn't just any restaurant to me, it was my restaurant. Years of blood, sweat, and tears had gone into building this place from nothing. And tonight, I was there to celebrate a milestone, a moment I had dreamed about for so long. But the moment I stepped inside, something felt off. The air was thick with silence, and suddenly, I was met with cold, sharp stares, not the warm welcome I expected, just eyes filled with doubt and discomfort. My heart started pounding as a server approached me, but instead of greeting me or showing any kindness, they looked me up and down, and then unbelievably, refused to serve me. "Sorry, ma'am, we can't accommodate you right now." The words hit me harder than I ever imagined. I blinked, thinking I must have heard wrong. Refused service? Here? In my own restaurant? It felt like a punch in the gut. I was stunned, confused, hurt, and honestly humiliated. How could this be happening? I wanted to scream, to demand answers, but all I could do was stand there, trembling inside. Little did they know, the woman they were turning away was not just any customer. I was the owner, and what happened next would change everything. For those who don't know me, I'm not just some woman walking into a fancy restaurant. I'm a business owner, a black woman who fought her way through every obstacle to build a restaurant empire from the ground up. It wasn't easy. In fact, it was one of the hardest journeys of my life. When I first started, people doubted me. They told me I wouldn't make it in the fine dining world. Some said my dream was too big, too ambitious, especially for someone like me, but I refused to listen. I had a vision, to create a place where everyone could come together to enjoy amazing food, exceptional service, and feel truly valued. A place where diversity was celebrated, not questioned. Years of early mornings, late nights, countless rejections, and hard lessons led me here. I poured my heart into every detail, the menu, the staff, the atmosphere. I traveled the world learning from the best chefs, studied customer experiences, and invested every penny I had into making this restaurant chain something special. This particular location was the crown jewel, the flagship restaurant of the brand. Opening it was a dream come true, but it wasn't just about success, it was about proving something to myself, and to everyone who ever doubted me. That night, I was there to celebrate a milestone, the restaurant's first anniversary, and what a year it had been. I wanted to be there in person to thank the team, see how things were running, and enjoy a quiet dinner to mark the occasion. I felt proud walking through those doors, proud of the journey, proud of the people I had become, proud of what I built. I smiled as I stepped inside, expecting to be greeted with warmth, appreciation, and respect. Instead, I was met with coldness and silence. The excitement I felt just moments before started to fade, replaced by a sinking feeling in my chest. What I didn't know then was that the night would soon turn into one of the most painful experiences of my life, right in the place I had fought so hard to create. As I approached the hostess stand, I expected to hear my name called out with a warm smile. After all, I had made a reservation weeks in advance, but instead I was met with a blank stare. "Name?" the hostess asked without looking up. I told her, steady but hoping for kindness. "It's under Carter. Reservation for 7:30. She tapped furiously on her tablet, eyes still not meeting mine. "I don't see any reservation for that name." I blinked. "That can't be right. I booked this location myself. I'm the owner." Her eyes flicked up for a brief second, then back down, cold as ice. Maybe it was under a different name. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. I tried to keep my voice calm. "No, Carter, it's me." The hostess shifted uncomfortably, but didn't apologize. Instead, she stepped aside and muttered, "Let me check with the manager." I waited, hoping this was just a mix-up, but when the manager appeared, his face was hard, unreadable. He barely glanced at me before saying, "Sorry ma'am, but we're fully booked tonight." Fully booked. I had the booking confirmation right on my phone. I showed it to him, expecting him to see reason. He barely glanced at it. "Looks like there's nothing we can do." My heart sank deeper. I noticed the way some servers glanced over nervously, whispering. Their eyes weren't just curious, They were judging me. I could feel it. I asked, "Is there a problem?" He hesitated, then said, "Look, it's nothing personal, but we don't think this is the right fit for you tonight." The words hit me like a slap. Confused, humiliated, and angry, I fought to keep my composure. How could this be happening here, in my own restaurant? I looked around and noticed the subtle signs, the way the maitre d' crossed his arms, the moment I walked in, the server who pretended to be busy when I approached, and the whispered conversations stopping when I got close. I wanted to scream, to ask why. Was it because of my skin, my gender? Did they think I didn't belong here? The place I built with my own hands. Are you refusing to serve me? I asked the manager, my voice shaking. He looked away, avoiding eye contact. "We're just following policy, but I'm the owner," I repeated, disbelief thick in my throat. "You can't refuse me service." One server finally spoke up, voice low, "Maybe it's best if you leave." The pain in my chest was unbearable. I felt small, powerless, and invisible all at once. I swallowed hard, tears threatening to fall. This wasn't just about a meal, it was about respect, dignity, and recognition. Something I had earned but was being denied in the worst possible way. "Please," I said quietly, "I want to speak with the chef." They exchanged uneasy glances. "The chef isn't available," the manager lied, but I knew better. The chef was there, and I was determined to get answers. I stood there, surrounded by cold faces and silence, feeling like a stranger in a place that should have been my home. That moment broke something inside me. I felt rage and heartbreak mix into a powerful force that I wasn't sure I could control, but I knew one thing: I wouldn't leave without the truth. I took a deep breath, trying to steady the storm inside me. I knew getting angry right then wouldn't help, not if I wanted answers, so I forced myself to stay calm, and asked once more, "Please, I just want to understand, why am I being treated like this?" The manager's eyes narrowed slightly, his tone clipped and dismissive. "I've told you, ma'am, we're at capacity, there's nothing more to say." But his words didn't add up. I had proof of my reservation. This was no accident, it was something else, something deeper. I looked around the room again. The tension was thick, like an invisible wall pressing down on me. I noticed the discomfort in some of the staff's faces, but none dared to speak up or stand by me. It felt like I was invisible, or worse, unwelcome. My mind raced back over everything I had worked for, the countless hours, the sacrifices, the sleepless nights spent building this business from scratch. I had poured my soul into this restaurant. My name was on every sign, every menu, every shining detail, yet here I was, being refused service in my own house. How could this be fair? How could respect be so easily stripped away? The bitterness of that injustice burned inside me. I swallowed my frustration, and said quietly, "I am the owner of this restaurant. I deserve to be treated with the same respect I expect everyone here to give our guests." The manager shrugged, as if it was no big deal. "Policy is policy." I clenched my fists. Whose policy? Yours, or someone else's? His silence spoke volumes, but it didn't answer my questions. I considered walking away then, pretending none of this had happened. Maybe if I left, I could avoid the humiliation and heartbreak, but I knew deep down I couldn't. I had to stay. I had to fight, not just for myself, but for everyone who had ever been made to feel less than. Standing there, I realized something painful. No matter how far I'd come, no matter how successful I was, racism was still alive and breathing, right here, right now, in my own restaurant. It was a bitter truth I hadn't fully accepted before. I'd hoped that owning the place would protect me from these moments. But it didn't. In fact, it made it even more painful. I thought about the countless times I had faced subtle discrimination, the sideways glances, the assumptions, the doubt. This was just the latest, but it felt like a loud, painful scream in my face. I refused to let this break me. Instead, I let it fuel me. I reminded myself why I started this journey in the first place: to create change, to show that respect and dignity should never be denied, no matter who you are or what you look like. "I'm not leaving until I speak to the chef," I said firmly. The manager hesitated, clearly uncomfortable now. He's busy. I shook my head. No. I will wait. As I stood there, surrounded by whispers and glances, I thought about identity, about what it means to be a black woman in a world that often tries to put you in a box, to limit you. But I was more than those limitations. I was a fighter, a leader, an owner, and I deserved to be seen and heard. I wasn't just going to walk away and let this moment define me. I was ready for what was coming next. I stood my ground, refusing to back down, after what felt like an eternity. The manager finally sighed and said, "Fine, I'll get the chef." His voice was reluctant, like he wanted to avoid this confrontation at all costs. When the chef appeared, the tension in the room thickened even more. He looked at me with a mixture of confusion, and something else, maybe suspicion. I looked him in the eye and said quietly, but firmly, "I'm the owner of this restaurant." For a moment, the room fell completely silent. You could hear a pin drop, the chef's face went pale, and I saw the staff around us exchange shocked, guilty looks. Some tried to avoid my gaze altogether. One server stammered, I didn't know." Another whispered, "This can't be real." The atmosphere shifted instantly. From cold and hostile to uncomfortable and shameful. The arrogance and dismissal melted away, replaced by embarrassment and regret. The chef finally found his voice. "I'm sorry, ma'am. We didn't mean to disrespect you. It was a misunderstanding." I held up my hand to stop the apologies. "This wasn't a misunderstanding, this was discrimination. A choice you made. You refused to serve me, the owner, simply because of who I am." The words hung heavy in the air. I could see the weight of what I said sinking in. They realized just how badly they had messed up. "I built this restaurant," I continued, "with my own hands and heart. I trusted you to uphold the values I fought for. Respect, dignity, fairness. But instead, you chose to treat me like an outsider." The chef lowered his head, clearly ashamed. Some of the staff looked like they wanted to disappear. I took a deep breath. "Because of your actions, the trust between us has been broken. This cannot be ignored or forgiven lightly." Without hesitation, I made my decision clear. Effective immediately, you and any staff involved in this refusal of service are terminated. I will not tolerate racism or disrespect in my business. The room was stunned. Some staff members tried to speak up, to explain or plead, but I raised my voice slightly. "No explanations. No excuses. This is about accountability." I felt a strange mixture of relief and sadness wash over me. Relief because finally the truth was out. Sadness because it had taken something so painful to get here. The chef nodded quietly, accepting the consequences. As I turned to leave, I heard whispered apologies, but they felt hollow against the damage done. This night wasn't just about firing a few people. It was a statement. A message that I would stand up for myself, for every person who's ever been disrespected or dismissed. I left the restaurant that night, knowing I had reclaimed my power, but also aware that the real work was just beginning. After the confrontation ended and the staff had left, a strange quiet settled over the restaurant. I stood alone for a moment, the weight of everything crashing down on me. Relief washed over me. Relief that I finally spoke my truth and was heard, but alongside it, a deep sadness lingered. Sadness that it had come to this. That in my own restaurant, I had to fight to be seen and respected. I thought about all the times I had brushed off small moments of unfairness, telling myself that it was easier to stay silent. But tonight proved that silence only lets injustice grow stronger. This experience was a harsh reminder of how deep the wounds of racism still run in our society. It's a wound that doesn't heal just because you're successful, educated, or powerful. It's a wound that shows up in moments like these, when people judge you not for who you are, but for the color of your skin. But even in that pain, I found hope. Hope that change is possible. Hope that by standing firm, I could inspire others to do the same. Hope that one day no one would have to face what I faced. Especially not in a place meant to celebrate people and bring them together. I knew deep in my heart that my work wasn't finished. In fact, this moment, as painful and shocking as it was only the beginning of something bigger. Yes, I had exposed the truth. Yes, I had stood up for myself, but now came the real challenge. Rebuilding. Rebuilding not just a team or a restaurant, but a culture, one that truly lived and breathed the values I had built this business on. I was more determined than ever to reshape the heart of my restaurants. I wanted every person who walked through our doors, whether they were guests or staff, to feel something powerful, like they belonged, like they mattered, like they were seen. I didn't want anyone to question if they'd be welcomed, because of how they looked, where they came from, or who they were. No one should ever feel invisible or unworthy in a place that's meant to bring people together. That meant real work. Honest work. It meant retraining staff, not just on service, but on humanity, on kindness, on empathy. It meant sitting down and truly revisiting our mission, asking the hard questions. What do we stand for? Who are we when no one's watching? Are we living the values we preach? It wasn't enough to write nice words on a mission statement, or hang inspirational posters on the wall. Fairness, dignity, and respect had to be lived, every day, by everyone. From the kitchen to the front desk, it had to be something people felt in the air when they stepped inside. And I knew it wouldn't be easy. Change never is. Some people would resist. Some wouldn't understand. But I was ready to lead. I was ready to have the uncomfortable conversations, to ask for more from the people I hired, and to show by example what it meant to treat people right. I thought a lot about what this experience had taught me, and one truth stood out above all. Strength doesn't come from being untouched by pain. It doesn't come from always having it together. No, strength shows up when you're pushed down, hard, and still choose to rise. It's in the moments when you feel small, but refuse to stay silent. When your voice shakes, but you speak anyway. This wasn't just about me anymore. This was about every person who's ever walked into a room and felt judged before they even opened their mouth. Every person who's ever been told, in words or in silence, "You don't belong here." I'd been there now. I knew that sting. And I wasn't going to let it happen on my watch, not in my name, not in my business. This experience, as painful as it was, lit something inside me. It made me stronger. It made me clearer, and it reminded me of the battles many of us still fight every single day, just to be treated like human beings. So if there's one thing you take from my story, let it be this: never let the world convince you that you're less than what you are. You are worthy, you are powerful, and your voice matters. Stand tall, even when it's hard. Speak your truth, even when it shakes. Demand the respect you deserve, not just with words, but with how you carry yourself. Because sometimes, the hardest, most painful battles lead us to the most powerful victories. Victories that don't just change our lives, they change the world around us. Thank you for listening to my story. If it touched you in any way, please take a moment to like this video. It really helps support the channel. I'd love to hear your thoughts, so please leave a comment below. Have you ever experienced something similar? How did you handle it? Sharing your story might help others feel less alone. If you want to hear more real stories like this, stories about strength, resilience, and standing up for what's right, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss an upload. And if you believe that respect and fairness should be for everyone, please share this video with your friends and family. Raising awareness is the first step toward change, and together, we can make a difference. Thank you for being part of this journey. Your support means the world.